Have you ever had an underperforming employee, but you weren't quite sure how to handle it? Maybe you noticed the signs, missed deadlines, poor communication. Maybe it just felt too much effort to address. Or worse, you didn't have the tools to do it properly. Maybe you've got people in your business right now who probably need exiting from the business, or at least supporting to turn things around before it's too late. In today's episode of De-Stress Your Business, we're going to dive deep into how to resolve poor employee performance really easily without it becoming this huge burden for you or for the rest of your team. Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual. Now, in episodes 137 and 138, I talked about getting the best out of your managers and setting them up with their team so that things run smoothly. Today, I'm going to be focusing on one of the most uncomfortable but essential tasks for any manager: resolving poor performance. When it's done well, it's a chance to develop your team. Done poorly, it can wreck team morale and lead to high employee turnover. So let's jump into the key steps for making it easy for managers to resolve poor performance and turn things around early. First, one of the biggest reasons that performance issues happen in the first place is unclear expectations. If your employees aren't 100% clear on what's expected of them, how can they meet those standards? As a manager, it's critical to clearly communicate performance standards from the start, whether it's KPIs, values, behaviors. Spell it out. This isn't something you should just do during the onboarding. It should be regularly reinforced in one-to-one meetings and team check-ins. Encourage your managers to tie the expectations that are being made to ideally your company's core values. This makes it easier for the manager and the employee to understand, but it also helps people understand how their individual performance impacts the bigger picture, and it allows you to link any performance issue you see to something that is considered non-negotiable for the business. It's your core values. So that's a really effective thing as part of setting those expectations that you can do. Next is to address those issues early, because that's often where things go wrong. Managers wait too long to address performance problems. Maybe they're hoping that the issue will resolve itself. Maybe they just don't want to rock the boat, but by waiting, the issue often escalates. Particularly if you've got other team members that are fed up with working with a poor performer or someone who's really grating them up the wrong way. Often it can even lead to losing A-player people in your team because you're tolerating the performance from a C, D, E, F player who's really frustrating. So don't wait. Encourage managers to step in early. Don't wait for the annual performance review. If something's off, address it right away. A quick conversation can often prevent bigger problems later on. Now, it's best if you can frame the conversation around specific behaviors, not the person. For example, rather than say, you're not doing a good job, say the last 3 client reports had got some errors in them. Let's talk about how we can fix that. And ideally, link it back to core values. For example, one of our core values is paying attention to detail. So linking it back to at our business, one of our core values is paying attention to detail because we believe that makes us more efficient and get better results for our clients. So as a result, it's really important that we make sure that there aren't errors. Talk to me about why you think those errors happened and what could be done differently in future. And by doing that nice and early, you're likely to actually address that pretty quickly. Now, if those things aren't addressed, if those little adjustments aren't being heeded, and as a result you're worried that there are some major gaps that need addressing but they're not making progress on them, that's when the dreaded PIP, or performance improvement plan, often steps in. Now, a PIP has a bad reputation as the first step towards a termination. But here's the thing, a PIP should be seen as a tool for growth, not punishment. A good PIP includes clear, measurable goals and timelines for improvement. It's about giving the employee every chance to succeed with regular check-ins to support their progress. The best way that you can do this is actually to involve the employee in setting the goals, or at least reviewing the draft goals and suggestions that have been made in their PIP, and then agreeing any changes and so on. Because when they have a say in what improvement looks like, they're much more likely to own the process. Now, when we're talking about giving that guidance, and both as redirects, but also through a performance improvement plan, we've really got to talk about what does that feedback look like? Because managers often shy away from giving detailed feedback because they don't want to be harsh. But vague feedback doesn't help anyone. It just leaves the employee unsure of what they need to fix. So encourage managers to be really specific. Point to clear examples of where performance is lacking, and then offer guidance on how to improve. The goal here is to make sure that the employee knows exactly what they need to change. Ideally, make sure that you use in the feedback the situation that was happening, the behavior that you observed, and the impact that this had. That keeps the feedback focused on facts rather than opinions. And then asking a question, how can we make sure that doesn't happen again, and supporting the person in addressing that, whether it's as a little redirect or as part of the performance review, is really powerful when you give those specific examples. And particularly in a performance improvement plan, you want to be referencing multiple examples of behaviors that have been a concern, so that people are really clear about what you're looking for instead and why it matters as well. That's why the impact is so important. Now, when you are doing some kind of performance improvement plan, it's really important to set a clear timeline for improvement, because it's really easy for performance issues to just drag on forever. So set specific deadlines for improvement and make sure that your managers follow up regularly. A weekly check-in might feel like a lot, but it's one of the best ways to keep performance on track and show the employee that you're there to support them. So I would really suggest that you remind managers to look at both the progress being made and the areas that need work as part of their one-to-ones and as part of performance reviews, and doing that balance, making sure that they're rewarding and encouraging and highlighting the progress being made, really prevents the employee from feeling overwhelmed, like there's too big a hurdle to overcome. Instead, helping them understand that actually you've made a load of great progress already. Here's the next thing that we need to address, is really powerful to help people get there. And by the way, I'm conscious that there's a lot here in terms of what your managers need to be able to do and how to deliver it. And for this is a perfect area where you need processes. We've got a playbook and a detailed step-by-step checklist on how to resolve unsatisfactory employee performance that goes through the process of identifying whether a warning is necessary or what other action is required. And then if a warning is necessary with a performance improvement plan, how to build that, how to communicate it to the employee, how to set deadlines and timelines and so on, and how to then have those follow-up meetings. And if they don't address it, then how to do the determination if you do get to that point. But we do have a playbook with a detailed process that you can use as a starting point. Email me, alexis.kingsbury@airmanual.co. If you'd like to get access to that, let me know what you're looking for, why, and I'll happily help out. But to continue on these, like one of the things that we see is that sometimes poor performance is linked to a lack of training or resources or processes. Like if your manager is not doing a good job of managing poor performance, it's probably because you haven't given them a process for how to manage poor performance. So as a leader, one of the best things that you can do is offer more support, guidance, development of processes, training, and so on, so that you can help managers and employees to improve. Now, that might be mentoring, coaching, additional training, and so on. It might be standard operating procedures. The best thing is when offering support, be really specific. So rather than just, oh yeah, we're here to help, let me know how I can help you. Instead, either make specific suggestions on what you'd like them to do, perhaps as part of a performance improvement plan, like I'd like you to work with this particular mentor or manager on this for the next 4 weeks and schedule a few training sessions so that you can now do X, Y, Z. Give that specific feedback. Or if you're not sure exactly what support's needed, ask a bit specific questions around where are the gaps or where are the skills or the knowledge that they feel like is the biggest gap for them, whether they feel like there's training available or that training would help, or coaching or more experience. Like go deep on that to really get clear on what people are going to actually do to improve their performance, rather than vague, hey, butt your ideas up, which isn't very helpful. Now, once you've provided a good performance improvement plan and provided some support and conversations through that journey, if things don't improve, particularly after the initial feedback, then it's time for a formal written warning. Now, this is where it can get pretty serious and risky, and so managers need to be crystal clear on how to use this as a tool. A written warning should spell out exactly what needs to change, by when, and what the consequences will be if it doesn't. Now, this is great for two reasons. Firstly, as part of a exit process, it makes sure that both legally, ethically, and so on, you've done everything you can, that you've been super clear and you've documented that you're trying to support this person improving their performance, and that if they then aren't able to, then it's appropriate that they're exited from the organization. But actually, in my experience, that's only the case for 50% of people who end up getting a written warning when you do it well. For 50%, it'll actually be the final push that they needed towards making that improvement. I've seen that in my own business multiple times, where actually getting to the point of that written warning was what it took to take them from, yes, I'll try to improve this, to actually taking the steps to do it. And they've done it and they've become A players. And what I love most is that sometimes it's those employees that have struggled in a particular area, had to overcome it from getting to that point. And then not only are they now A players and able to deliver again, but also they understand how it's easy to not perform in that area, and as a result what they needed to do to improve, which means they become a role model for others to get good at that, because it wasn't something they were just naturally good at. And that's really powerful as well, to have in your business people who have turned things around, and as a result others can learn from them. So to make sure that you do a really good job of these and you don't put yourself at risk, make sure you provide a template for written warnings so that your managers have a clear structure to follow. Make sure that part of your process includes reviewing it with HR, with leadership, possibly even external legal support. Make sure that you're in really good shape. We've got, as part of our playbook and best practice template, we've got a template in there based on ones that we've used in the past. And so you can use that as a starting point, but make sure that you've kind of reviewed that in line with your own organization values and how the rest of your process works, to make sure that it's ticking all the boxes, really. Now, ultimately, you want to create a culture where performance issues are seen as opportunities for growth, not just a pathway for termination. So make sure that you're framing performance discussions in a positive way, that you encourage employees to feel supported, not fearful, that you encourage managers to use this process as a way to support performance rather than just to exit people from the business. And particularly encourage your managers to celebrate progress. Even small improvements should be recognized, because particularly this can help motivate further change. Finally, I want you to make it as easy as possible for your managers to handle poor performance. Provide clear templates for performance improvement plans, for written warnings, for check-ins. Take the guesswork out of the process and ensure that all of your managers follow the same steps. When you provide this, it makes it much easier for managers to nip poor performance at the bud, rather than just wait and hope that things improve on their own. I've met business owners and managers who have waited a year or more with a poor performer, holding back from taking action, holding back from giving them performance improvement plan, written warning, or just terminating them. That's too long. The risk to your business, the impact on your business is huge. And typically, it's not uncommon that when you do exit someone from the business, suddenly a load of team members will go, oh, thank goodness for that. Yeah, they're a right pain and they make mistakes all the time. And I've been doing this and this has been so frustrating and they're so exhausting. And you might not have even been aware of those things because your lovely A-player staff have just been covering for them. Don't put your team in that position. Make sure that you're providing the support to your managers so that they can do this. And you can use online tools to track performance management and have follow-up meetings and so on to keep things organized and ensure accountability. So, in summary, if you want to make it easier for your managers to resolve poor performance, give them a structured process to follow. This should include setting clear expectations, addressing issues early, and offering specific feedback. Make sure that you're using performance improvement plans or PIPs as a tool for growth rather than punishment, and always make sure that you're providing support where it's needed. It's all about creating a culture of improvement. When your employees feel supported in their growth, they're much more likely to turn things around. And as I've mentioned a few times in this episode, if you'd like access to our templates and playbooks for handling performance issues, this is an area that we've been really strong at, both in our own businesses and then helping clients with. Reach out to me, alexis.kingsbury@airmanual.co, and I'd be very happy to share them with you. But otherwise, thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode useful, please do subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, then leave a 5-star review. It really makes a really big difference. Like, we have lots of lovely 5-star reviews, which I'm very pleased about and hugely appreciative of. And normally where I can identify who left it, I reach out to them and thank them personally. But it's like each one that we get makes a really huge difference. So please do that. And if you can make it clear who you are or send me a message afterwards, I will thank you profusely, because it really does make a big difference. But otherwise, until next time, have fun.